Hello, everyone, dear colleagues. We're going to have a presentation on our experience of developing neural networks for the photo identification of gray whales. We base our methodology on neural networks, and let's explain what it is. It is a mathematical model which is organized based on how living cells perform in a human body. We try to model these processes, what is happening in the brain, and these models were later applied to model various complicated processes where it was important to determine links between input and output data, forecasts, identification of images. There are lots of different practical applications for this methodology. As you know, starting 2002, Sakhalin Energy and the partners of the company on Sakhalin-1 project have been executing a complex program in the Sakhalin Island, and one of the components was the photo identification of marine animals. I think it is all clear for all of you that photographic identification is a very efficient survey method because it involves very little actual interaction with the animals. Whales, especially gray whales, can be easily identified because they have scars and different spots on their flukes and on their bodies, and such patterns are individual for each animal, so it is possible to identify them. Annually, field groups brought up to 30,000 photographs, and it mostly depends on the season, on the number of groups, but as you can understand, this amount of photographic evidence requires a lot of effort on putting them together, identification and processing. And during that particular intense period, at the end of each field season, we feel that all this photographic evidence buries the researchers. Viktor Vodovozov and myself made a pilot solution for the simplification of this process. Our main goal was to automate the process of the gray whale identification. In order to implement this project, we tried the AI and machine learning methods. Our objective included the identification on the field photos that was supposed to be fed into the system. The whale itself and the neural network was supposed to identify the position of the whale on the photograph. And then later, the neural network was supposed to identify this particular animal based on the Sakhalin photo catalog of gray whales. Well, since all whales have different spots and these spots change with time, the most important thing was to identify some kind of an identification element that could persist for a longer period of time in order to teach the neural network. There was a similar project for neural networks with the Atlantic whales. The neural network used photographs of the upper part of the head, but we decided to look at the dorsal part with this crest on the back of the whale, which basically remains with the whale until forever, unlike the spots. And it turns out that neural networks require a lot of learning, and that is a big difference from other modeling algorithms. In order to teach the neural network, we needed to create a special catalog. Right now, in the catalog of gray whales of Sakhalin, we have 300 whales that have ever been identified. And out of that number, we selected photographs with the crest from the left side, from the right side, And we had approximately 3,000 such photographs. But that was not the end of our efforts. We applied a graphic transformations method, and the existing photos with the crest were moved with different backgrounds, with different colors. We changed different other photographs that were applied on top. And in the end, the catalog for neural network contained approximately 100,000 training photographs. For the neural network to work, it is important to transform the photograph into a matrix, because it doesn't look for photographs. We needed to create a matrix of several colors, and each pixel had a specific location and color. On this slide, you can see the process of the identification cycle. At the first stage, we taught the neural network to identify whales using the training photographs from the catalog, the ones that I explained at the previous slide. Then we added field photos to try the process, to trial the process. And in the end, in order to understand what we have, we received two different sets of data: the photograph of the whale with an identified specific spot that the neural network has found, and most importantly, an ID number from the catalog, based on the Sakhalin catalog of gray whales. I have to say that neural networks are different depending on the architecture, on the depth. And as part of this project, we used a number of different types of architectural solutions. The samples were taken from the open source, and we didn't require any licensing to use the neural networks. Every such architecture was uploaded to the training catalog to identify how accurate they can be. There were two coefficients for accuracy. One of them was the positioning accuracy coefficient. It's a usual interaction over union coefficient. This is what it is called in foreign literature. This is the training area versus the detection area and their interaction. The bigger the coefficient, the higher is the accuracy. And another coefficient is the classification coefficient. How many true classifications we have versus the total count in the catalog. As I mentioned earlier, we wanted to compare several architectures of neural networks, and the majority gave us a very good location or spatial identification, but there were some difficulties in terms of classification accuracy. This is related mostly to the fact that we did not have a lot of opportunities to try this network out on a bigger massive of data. We are still working on it, but the preliminary results show us that it is possible to use neural networks for identification. Here you can see what it looks like in reality. This is a high level of identification. The green area is the identified area that was determined by us. The red area is the identification that was made by the neural network. As you can see here, the accuracy is very high and the ID numbers match, but it is not always as good as that. Here you can see a medium level of identification accuracy. it's the same whale, but the network is not sure that it is the right ID number from the catalog. And sometimes it's not as good as that. We don't quite understand how the neural network works, because there are a lot of things that are far away from the human understanding. It's sometimes difficult why they make such decisions. So you can see here that, for example, in several instances, the network identified the crest on the left, even though it was on the right. So that means that there was no match in the ID number. The first results that we have based on the trial project give us a very good idea of whether or not such neural networks can be used in order to automatically identify whales around Sakhalin. I think in the future it would be possible to use such algorithms for machine learning. As you can see, the algorithm can be used for the identification of marine mammals, dolphins, orcas, killer whales, because they have large catalogs. But also, we believe that automatic photo identification will help research groups, and the human factor will be taken away from the processing of photographs, and the quality of identification will not depend on the human factor. Thank you very much. Thank you for your attention. If you have any questions, I will be happy to take them.